Welcome back to the Conversations with Cacao podcast. Today we have Enjoly Mar, a Native American Mexica with Guatemalan, Apache, Hungarian, and Basque roots. She was born in Southern California to immigrant parents of traditional upbringing. She later reclaimed her Indigenous heritage while also connecting with her European lineage. In 2016, she founded Jaguar Journey Cacao, guided by her Mayan elder to help bridge the gap between traditional and modern cacao ceremonies. Living in Atitlan for the past 8 years, Enjoly has dedicated herself to honoring cacao as a sacred plant teacher, believing it guides us to connect with ancient wisdom and Mother Earth. Her work focuses on sharing cacao's healing power to restore emotional balance and harmony on the planet. Enjoly collaborates with Mayan families, helping to manage and develop sustainable cacao production, and leads a weaving project to preserve tradition and empower women artisans. She uses her privilege, language skills, and connections to serve her community and those who join her in creating a positive global impact. Please enjoy our conversation today. Welcome back to the Conversations with Cacao podcast, and I am here joined today by Enjoly Mar. It is a beautiful, beautiful gift to have you tuning in from Spain, bringing your wisdom and your joy and your light here. So let's just take a few minutes before we get into this conversation to allow ourselves to become even more present. And we take this time at the beginning of these conversations so that we can really begin to listen to our heart, listen to our own mind, listen to cacao moving through us, listen to the world around us in more depth, and just creating a little bit more space around our mind. Because when we're so full all the time, just inputting information, sometimes there's no place for it to go. So just taking a few minutes for us to allow that breath to empty out, allowing our mind to begin to settle, and allowing our heart to really begin to be anchored into our body, into presence. The activation through our own ability to be present with ourselves in this moment. And breathing into our heart space, breathing out all around our heart space, breathing into our heart space, breathing out all around our heart space, even the back part that we sometimes forget about, and allowing this breath to begin to nourish us from all sides, feeling how supported we are. In this moment, we are held by the earth. In this moment, we have air to breathe. In this moment, there is the energy of space around us. And allowing our energy to begin to connect with the heart of the earth. Feeling this beautiful support rooting up from the heart of the earth as Mama Earth begins to receive us, holding us in that gentle embrace of like, I got you. It's all good. We're safe. In this moment, everything is good. And breathing up, rooting from our heart, from our spine, all the way through our crown, up to the heart of the sky. Opening our awareness, our mind, our thought, our eyes, our vision, our voice, up to new ideas, to remembrances, to the light of the sun, to the light of the moon, to the light of the stars, and allowing this ancient wisdom, this new wisdom to begin to find us. And I love to see it as like these beautiful light tendrils that begin to flow from all over and flow into our crown, beginning to light up the mind, light up the ears, and create more space to see, more space to hear, more space to listen, more space to feel as we bring this energy down into our throat, that we may speak the words that feel truthful, honest, and kind, real and raw, authentic, and bringing this energy down into our hearts, into our shoulders, into our back, into our arms, into our spine, breathing it all the way down into our solar plexus, knowing that we are held in light and love at this moment. And even if it's a lot of words, just allowing our energy to just feel. Trust that it's happening. Trust that there's something moving. Bringing this energy down into our tummies, into our hips, into our lower back, all the space where we hold so much tension, just allowing ourselves to really soften and breathe and flow, release, and just be held. That's it. It's really that simple when we let go. Let go. Allowing this energy to flow through the legs, down into the feet, releasing through the feet anything we no longer need. And once again, returning to the breath, noticing within your awareness if anything has shifted, noticing within yourself just how you're meeting yourself today, and allowing that to be just perfect the way it is right now. And from the space of more spaciousness, more expansion, we are going to beam our love to our guest today. We are going to beam our love to our listeners today, connecting us all in this beautiful web of light, beaming our love to our past listeners, and beaming our love to our future listeners, and allowing ourselves to also receive that love from the past listeners, from the present listeners, and from the future listeners. Knowing that we are all co-creating the space together. We are all here on Earth at this time, right now, together. And allowing ourselves just to open up and let ourselves be surprised and delighted by what is to come. So thank you so much. As we begin to bring our presence to Cacao, we have the honor of Enjoly speaking the blessing today. So I'm going to pass the mic to her. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Beautiful. Yes. Completely present in this presence. I want to call upon the spirit of beautiful Mama Cacao, Ish Cacao as we like to call her, the goddess of earth, protector of earth, the roots, just ancient tree, ancient spirit, master, teacher, which has its own intention of healing its family and helping the family remember how to connect deeper with earth and how to listen to our heart, which is also connected to earth, allowing Mama Cacao to guide us as well. And may we be present enough and silent enough to hear that message and offer complete gratitude for this, not just the medicine, but the cultivators of her, the caretakers, and the ones who make it possible to share this medicine around the world, which is growing and nurturing and healing. Thank you, Matiosh Ish Mama Cacao, honoring the farmers and the women who make and work with their hands and their heart. And just so much gratitude for Mama Cacao, connected to the heart of the earth, heart of the sky, heart of the waters, and heart of the wind, uniting many circles and many brothers and sisters around the world, and connecting us back to the ancient, in this modern fast world. We give our gratitude and honor her presence here and now. Thank you. Blessings.
Thank you, Matiosh. That first sip of the day just brings that energy and deliciousness back.
Nice.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. And I know you are beaming in from Spain right now. You're traveling a little bit, and I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself, about your journey, and how you came to be working with Cacao.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really a long story, but I definitely have had, yeah, I'll try to make it short. I've had a connection with cacao through my grandmothers from Guatemala as well as Mexican. We used to call it the chocolate de la abuelita, which is really funny. I really thought it was grandmother's chocolate, and now it makes so much sense to call it that. And of course, it was something that we grew up with, but I'm actually from the United States. I was raised in southern LA, and then my parents moved to Las Vegas, and they're really traditional. They're immigrated from Guatemala and Mexico for the American dream. And because of their strict traditions, I really wanted to separate and, yeah, kind of, how do you say in Spanish? We say rechazar. It would be like, yeah, avoid, go away from my
Like
roots.
rebel?
Rebelled, exactly. Until at some point I connected with Native American Apache family in the States, which I believe it was my first teacher into the Red Road. And I was already singing in a punk rock band, actually, a reggae punk rock band. And the elder became a fan, and he was a great man, Papa Trujillo Apache. And he actually was the one who began telling me about the Mayan roots and the Mayan culture and how important it was that I connected with this. And of course, my father was a person who lost his tongue because it was considered, beneath the Spanish. So eventually he lost it and lost a lot of that connection. And at some point, I became sick of the modern world that I was living, or, something was wrong, or I guess a call of my soul. And when that Apache Papa passed away, who had really taught me about the Mayan cosmology, or I knew already about the Baktun coming. This was in 2012. I'd already started a little bit traveling, but I felt called in visions and dreams to go back to Guatemala, to reclaim my roots, to find out who I was, to, connect with further my family. And my grandma had passed away by then, so I hadn't returned to Guatemala since I was about 12 years old. So I returned, and it was about, 12 years ago, 2012, with a backpack, and just discovered Guatemala and my roots, and ended up in a Mayan ceremony drinking cacao. And it was so beautiful. It was something I'd never experienced and knew existed, and it just changed everything for me. And it wasn't like it was the beginning of my healing, of a long that we know it's not linear. But I was invited to the elders' home, and since I was already had experience singing in ceremonies, I had my little songs and I sang for them, and then I was asked to translate in their ceremonies. And I couldn't believe that I could use my bilingual skills. I had never lost Spanish because my mother didn't really, she needed a translator growing up in the States. So I never lost my Spanish. And I was able to translate for the elders speaking for, and this particular elder opened his doors to international community. And so by translating into English, there was Polish that were translating into Polish, and we were just connecting. And at that time, Keith was already pretty popular, the shaman Keith. But I think people were starting to come wanting to experience a Mayan ceremony where cacao was present. And it was a little bit of a conflict because there's so much ancient knowledge that we're rescuing, where it was very present in the culture, and yet a lot of, because of the evangelism in the pueblos of a lot of rural Guatemala, it was lost. It was prohibited. A lot of things were prohibited. So we're definitely rescuing what is known. But at that time, it was strange for a lot of Mayan elders or even grandmas or people, wisdom keepers that still had the stories or the wisdom about, what was passed on from their ancestors, to share it so openly, especially when they didn't trust that it would be capitalized on, or extracted and such stories. So I really just wanted ceremony of Mayan ceremony. I wanted to learn about the cosmology for my own roots and heal. I wanted to heal. And through that, the family was cultivating cacao, and people just started asking me, can you get me cacao since you work with this family? And I started to get it. And there was a few years there where I was carrying cacao back and forth in the lake where I ended up living, and never charging anything for my services, because I just felt so, I still had like a path about abundance that I needed to understand the value of energy and all of this. But through my journey with cacao, the family said, you're getting compensated for your energy and your time and your service, right? And they basically gave me permission. And I've gone through a long process of learning that cacao itself was the seed of currency for the Mayan people before. There was a few different chapters of colonization in Guatemala, but I guess you could say the one where my father had to escape as a refuge was in the 30-year war, which was all about agriculture in Guatemala. So before that, it was still used as a currency. So we're talking like 60 years ago, it was still used. Like if you had cacao seeds, you could trade with any other farmers, anything, they would still trade their farming goods, their agriculture, eggs for cacao seeds. And the Mayan ceremonies used cacao seeds as one of the offerings. And so it's been a really long journey to learn, and I just feel like somehow cacao just chose me. Like I'm just so blessed. Like I could cry what it's done to my life. Once I started to, okay, I still do my joreo, which is wholesale. I'm not a retailer of cacao, I'm a wholesaler. And at some point it became so popular, especially in the lake, that the movement was growing so fast, and it was kind of like a wild movement. Everybody wanted to come to learn about cacao and how to serve it and all of this. And there really wasn't any programs or direction. And the Mayan elders did their Mayan ceremony, but to like teach about how to serve cacao wasn't really in place 8 years ago, until some situations happened and my elder told me, you should do something. And I remember we created one of the first retreats. My teacher, who was a teacher of Keith, actually asked me to invite one of those Mayan elders and hold a retreat where we had her share what she wished to share, and slowly, acquiring the trust of a few different families I work with. Today, I created the Jaguar Journey as a pilgrimage to where people could come, and I'm bridging, come learn the traditional and what's real, the real story of, how some farmers are generational farms and do work with the cosmology to cultivate in a sacred way their plants, and everything is so about their, the cultivation, that the harvest and everything is sacred to them. But then at the same time, you have farmers that they don't have any spiritual connection to cacao, and yet they have a connection to the land and the earth, and then in that sense, there's there's been, such a broad prospect of different kind of farmer styles and pesticides coming in, and but then the farmers who have a spiritual connection still, or work with the cosmology of the Mayan spirituality, don't want to put pesticides, and they know, and they're educated and all of these things. And it's been a really, really long journey, and I could keep going on and on and on about. But basically, when I work with someone that wants to receive from the families that I've now helped cultivate and kind of product manage, because I connect the buyer to the family and really are working as an interpreter, and then also both sides are learning from each other. So it is really like the modern and the tradition working together. And yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of topics, right? I've had a lot of conversations that I've been invited to about culture appropriation or what is appreciation, and to go and help connect people with the elders and get a blessing because they want to serve cacao and they want to walk with it, and they want to walk with it in a way that is in reverence. And what's the difference between appreciation and appropriation, and all of these things that I've been working with, like bigger producers who are really making an impact in social media about this movement. So yeah, I mean, I've had the honor to be a voice for the Mayan people, and some of them I've had to earn their trust, and then they could see the good, as well as like reconnecting with cacao, and they use it in their way and have this connection. Like they've always said, the Mayan people don't know what is depression because a lot of them have always just consumed cacao, and they're not really in their heads. They don't have a lot of time to be in their heads. They need to work, they need to survive, they need to cultivate, they need to do what they're doing to feed their families, right? And I think a lot of it is because they've had this tradition of drinking cacao. But of course, not all regions. There's regions that they've lost this connection and all of that. And then some Mayan elders that didn't serve cacao or didn't work with it saw the movement and saw the power of cacao and gained respect for it again, and are rescuing their own ancestral wisdom and stories and all of this. So the modern woman movement has asked, the indigenous people to go and rescue that and to reconnect with that as well, to reclaim that. I'll stop there.
I would love to speak to the importance for the Mayans to have the ability to reconnect with their own culture. And that is such a beautiful cycle that, in a way, that this bigger movement is enabling really a deep connection to our roots again, like of all people, and from where this medicine has originated. And that is, I feel like, just like the power of the plant to do that, to bring back this resurgence of like, no, you're gonna remember, and you're gonna connect, and you're gonna feel, and you're gonna heal, and you're gonna love, and you're gonna see each other like from a plant. That is wild. And the expanded aspect of like, this is a consciousness that we are really working with. And how do we work with this consciousness so that we're really listening? Like in any relationship, so many times, I'm in a relationship or talking to somebody, I'm like, oh, they're not listening. Like they're somewhere else. They're not hearing what I'm saying. And in the same sense, you could just eat chocolate or drink cacao and not listen. But the practice of sitting and listening, what does it actually mean to be present with a plant, and be present with the practices? Because for me, my understanding of it, and I would love to have you speak more too, but it's just like the Mayan wisdom keepers and the elders, they have tapped into this knowledge, these portals of how to access and use the energy. And from what I know, like the colors that they wear when they're preparing the cacao, and the who touches the cacao when, and what is used, like it only touches stone. And there's so much deep information that the conscious mind maybe just like seems like it's maybe irrelevant. But when we work with the medicine, and then the capacity to really explore consciousness on this earth, the power to use this medicine connected with our vehicle, our human vehicle, this technology that we forgot how to use, is like mind blowing to me. So I'm very excited about that right now.
Yes. And through the journey, experiencing cacao for itself, and it amplifies your emotions, gets you out of your head, and then, allows people to be present and actually relaxes enough to feel and move through emotions that might be blocking us. And then we get this energy from all the nutrients that it has to then just be one with our body instead of separate. And this is a tool, and it's an ancient master plant, just like many, but it's gentle, and also it's really powerful and intense. So there does need to be education on how to serve it and all of that. And more is coming out because now we're working with biologists and people who are testing cacao and realizing that in different regions, some of it has much more thiobroma, much more caffeine, much more nutrients than others. So all of them have a little bit of different effect, as well as the energy behind each of them, depending on the region that they're grown. But her spirit is here to, it has, like I said, its own intention to guide me, to guide you, to guide us into like sharing it with our brothers and sisters, and its abundant possibilities of how we can use it as a tool in a modern way with the consciousness that is existing, the education that's out there, healing traumas, doing therapies with it, sound baths, painting with it, helping. I know people who just drink it just to paint for hours and hours, or sculptures, and just it's really a tool that has endless possibilities of how to use it today as a modern way, right? And then I feel in order to have the blessing and permission to use it, it is important to go to that land, or even not go to that land, but connect with those who are connected to the land where it grows. And in this journey, I mean, there's some people who do try to go and they're like, okay, let me see, show me a traditional Mayan ceremony and teach me everything, without having a relationship or being culturally sensitive about, hey, just 10 years ago, they started opening up and telling their story and telling their wisdom, because it has been extracted and there hasn't been reciprocation. And I think Cacao is teaching us, well, let's connect to the roots. And what does that mean? Connect to those who are connected to the roots of this plant, connect to the roots of our own ancestors, but also honor the people who cultivate and work the earth. And that's where the ceremony starts. And I feel like the movement is beautiful. Some people are doing such beautiful things showcasing her. And of course, it's also romanticized. And I believe that the education that I share, and when people come into my Jaguar journeys or my mentorships, is how to be in reverence with the medicine culturally, is respecting. For instance, there's Ak'ik who are real and go through a whole initiation, and there is tools and everything that they're connected to, that they're taught by other elders, how to really listen to the elements, how to really listen to the fire, how to their wisdom is ancient, and passing it on when you go through certain initiations that allow you to be ready to receive that. And we can't just pay for that, and we can't just go in and demand that we're entitled to that. So sometimes you have to really go and dedicate yourself. If it's a Mayan ceremony that you want to create or practice, then you have to go with the Mayans, and you have to get that blessing, and you have to dedicate yourself and sacrifice your whole entire life to do that. It's a commitment, and I take it very seriously. I respect it very much, and I don't need to be that. I mean, maybe when I'm older, I'm not ready. I feel like being an artist is enough. Being a bridge, an interpreter, organizing, being of service to them is enough. And there is so many, I mean, we all have ancestors. And I think that's what Cacao is teaching us. We all are from the earth, and we all have our own ancient ancestors, and it wants us to tap into our own, and I have Mexican, Apache, Mayan. I also have Hungarian and Basque. And right now I'm very close to the Basque country in a very special place where I told you they have a story of Inquisition and witches. And I came here because of a teacher of guitar who has been my teacher for a long time. I'm visiting her, and I just can't wait. I could just see the mountains right now, and just like I know Cacao is telling me your ancestors have also walked through here, and I have colonial and indigenous ancestors. And now is not the time to blame another for whatever was done, but rather forgive and heal, because the earth is moving really fast. Consciousness is moving really fast. And we need these tools to ground and to connect with all the wisdom that our ancestors have walked through. So I think that's the most important thing that Cacao is doing. It's healing our sick brothers and sisters in a society of trauma, of addiction, of addictions that are bad for us, and wants us to stand up and reach our potential and connect with earth and help our brothers and sisters be of service, reciprocate all of that, and that abundance is good and abundance is infinite, and there isn't scarcity of anything, but there has to be a way to respect, to how to reciprocate fairly and responsibly, you know?
I'm curious about your relationship with that as you were talking about, first of all, appreciation versus appropriation, and then also the aspect of your journey with actually receiving monetary compensation for this. And I know that's challenging. I mean, for me, it's very, very challenging. Working with the medicine has been my own journey of like, I've done 2 cacao facilitator trainings and I've been on several, also Mayan ceremonies, but in-person ceremonies and circles. And for the longest time, I'm like, no, I don't, this is a powerful medicine, but like you were saying, the Akich, it's 50 years or 60 years of training. And I'm like, know nothing compared to that. The wisdom, go somewhere, go talk to those people. They know way more than me. And so it's been a journey of even just allowing myself to hold space and hold circles and like, what is appropriate? What is for the extent of the knowledge that I have, and just going on my personal journey of like, there are so many, but then I see, misappropriation, and it's like, well, then maybe my voice can help even just shape more awareness and understanding and creating more space for people to actually just relate to the medicine yourself. And if you want to actually go down these lineages, go there. Like go over there. Find those people. And and then also just the money part, which is something super, is still what I work with, is like, no, I don't need money for it. But it's like, actually I do, because it's a resource, and I'm making this, or I'm offering this, and I'm offering the space, and I'm paying for this medicine. But there's still something in my energy that I'm working out where I'm like, but I just want to do it for free. Like, this should be for everybody to receive. So maybe you can help shift my perspective on that.
Oh, yeah. Well, coming from being a hairdresser and then going to travel for music and being poor, and like, I wanted to be an anarchist, and I lived with anarchists in South Granada, Spain, that are auto-sustainably, and just started to hate money for a little while and have a bad relationship with her, and then, but not being able to really support or make an impact really, other than exit the system, and then coming back, and it's just learning, especially with cacao. I mean, it was cacao because I remember thinking, no, I'm not going to charge for the service of taking people there and interpreting, and also even singing, or none of that. Why? If it's valuable, if I'm valuable. But I didn't think so, because it was also sacred that I don't want, because money is worthless to me. So why would I? And this is so sacred, and there's no monetary value for how I feel about this. It's so special. Why would I charge? But that's because I didn't value money. I didn't respect money anymore, and I remember people asking me to ship them cacao from this family, and me going to the family's house, carrying 30 pounds of cacao, 15 kilos, and taking it to the boat. And there's a storm, and going to the storm, going to the shipment office, and spending all these hours and doing this all the time, and charging so little that I didn't even know what was fair, and it was really hard to put a price on what that value was, until the grandma told me, you have to value your energy. What you're doing is so valuable. You deserve, so I had guidance in accepting, okay, well, what is fair? And so I still keep it at this. Basically, me personally, I receive 10% from every block that I sell. The family receives, and the farmers, they split it up, the rest, and I feel good about that. And because I do wholesale, it ends up being like a pretty good portion. And then I started to mentor. I started to realize my documents of all the information of years, I can't just give away. And then watching people take those documents and make their own book or program, and then they charge 5 times what I didn't charge. And then I feel stupid, but then I'm like, wait, I I don't want to be like that, because I've never been a person who, whatever that is, maybe I'm still struggling with it, but Anyway, recently I got a book that says I Love Money, Money Loves Me from a Colombian writer who I really recommend her, but she also tries to reprogram you about the energy of money being divine and seeing it as a crystal, and that it's just the source of infinite creation, and how it just needs instructions. And I have a good heart and good intentions, and I think that there's a thin line about greed, but if you're stay connected, like, and using a tool like cacao that keeps you connected to your heart, and you remain fair, you just, if I have more, I'm going to do more good with it. And there's been a lot of families that I've been in service with, raising money for their funeral, raising money for a person with cancer who doesn't have insurance, raising money for weaving projects, raising money for my friend to have a better workshop for her weaving, she's my tailor for another project. Watching the family and the new family that I'm helping with in the Kaslimal project from Alta Verapaz that was in debt, and that the papa was going to leave to be an immigrant and work in the United States as an immigrant. Instead, they have this generational cacao farm, and we convinced them to make cacao paste. And today he's actually building his marimbas, and he has a workshop for marimbas, and we've watched in 2 years their life change and support a whole family of 30 people. And with the little that they have, they can put their children into college, study what they really want to study, and change their lives and empower the farmers that before, even just 20 years ago, are still now all over Guatemala getting exploited. So I'm seeing, the I'm also growing in understanding that money is also sacred. It's sacred, and cacao has showed me that, and cacao has taken me to different places in the world to share it, and it's almost like a reward for the path you're walking and the service that you walk in. So if you're doing it with intention, good intentions, your heart, let's open ourselves up to receive what is for us, or to receive the love that we have given. It is so valuable, and why should we reject it? Especially good people in the world, we need it most. We're going to change the world, and we need to 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 have that tool as well. It's been complicated, and I also have been communicating with an elder in Canada they have an educational program about decolonizing Indigenous wisdom and all of that. And we've had very real conversations. And recently he told me, how do I not know that you're not just a colonialist capitalizing on, the movement of cacao? And he believes still that all medicines should not be sold, that all sacred ceremonies should not be sold or anything like that. And in a way, I agree with him. I wish that we didn't have to, but for instance, through the connection in Guatemala, they bring lots of elders. We know them personally, leaders of their indigenous community, but they live off of the land, and they got to buy their land back with the money that they acquired from retreats, from serving ayahuasca and sharing other kind of programs. They don't really need money. They live in the jungle. They're fine with living in the jungle. They still hunt. They have clean water. But to defend their lands, they need lawyers against people of power that are after petroleum or gas, and that's why that tool. And so we're actually, if you know what you're supporting and why you're supporting it, then that's how we're really going to vote, and protect and defend in what we believe in. And I think, of course, them having the connection with a plant like ayahuasca is helping them understand how important it is to protect the Amazon jungle. Same with the family that is growing cacao and knows it will only grow in organic land and soil and reforesting, and it needs a multi-diverse environment. So it needs lots of different plants, not monoculture and all of this. And therefore, it's teaching us how to maintain our soil and the nutrients of our soil, how to maintain the harmony and balance of the natural cycles of earth and all of that. So it's really, really deep. I think cacao and the master plants. And as we discover or we learn or we go back to the ancient wisdom of what you can discover through archaeological records, you can see that there's a reason why cacao was revered by the ancients. And there's a reason why it got lost in the middle. And so I call it in Spanish reivindicación, a restoration, a rescuing of that through this cacao movement.
Would you mind speaking of what they have found and the relationship of the sacredness to cacao in the past, and sharing a little bit more about that with our listeners?
Because Bats is today in the
I
Mayan
know.
calendar.
I kept on wanting to say it's very auspicious that we're connected here on 12 Bats.
Beautiful. It's on my cross. It's my future in my cross. Bats, so funny. It's the weaver. It's the weaving of wisdom and all of that. It's also the muse. It's also basically Bats was inspired by the love of the dog, see, which is the day before yesterday, the love that dog had for humanity. And therefore, he was inspired and created creativity and music and celebration and the arts to celebrate life. And so one of the things that they have discovered is, or understood the Mayan elders, is that the archaeologists thought that the monkeys used to eat cacao because there was a lot of drawings or pictorials of the monkey with the cacao and all of them dancing on trees as if that's just what they used to eat, right? And there's stories about how cacao, the name comes from the monkeys singing that cacao, cacao when they would go to eat because they would eat cacao for lunchtime. There's lots of other stories of the word cacao and where it comes from, but that's one. And one elder told me, but actually they didn't understand, the archaeologists, because they didn't understand the Mayan calendar, that it represented Bats, the energy of Bats, the muse of arts and celebration and singing. And so if they were eating cacao, they were showing us with cacao, you could celebrate life and dance and sing and be an artist or be creative and weave and all of that. So I'll share that today
Yeah.
in
Oh, that's
honor of
amazing.
Bats. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. I didn't know that part of it. What I also think is interesting too about, the Mayan origin stories, there's the two hero twins, and for the longest time, the way that I was taught or knew about the stories is that it was like two boys, two men, hero twins. I don't know, it never really resonated with me. I was like, this doesn't there's just something that feels like there's a discrepancy. And then I heard one elder speaking, and they're like, no, there's no way that the origin would be of two masculine energies. And it's Ish. Ish is the most feminine aspect of the Mayan wisdom. And it's obviously a man and a woman that
Yes.
is the journey and the origin. And I think it's so interesting how we skew that into our Western or Northern Western society of like, oh, it has to be two men. And it's like, no, 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 no. No, it's the feminine and the masculine. So I'm not sure where I was getting my sources first, but I really appreciate that. But all of the origin stories are just like, it's beautiful to dive into the Popol Vuh and really understand these archetypes or characters or myths. It brings so much more dimension, I think, to the relationship also with cacao.
I'll share that the Popol Vuh is a translation by a European from maybe stories from elders. It's very, really, really nice. And I've been so honored to hear lots of stories from different elders who had the stories passed down from their own people, right? Ish Palampe, Ish is the Ish goddess, and we call Ish also the jaguar. And so she's one of the part of the story of creation. And then Ishbalamke, the male, and they partake in the story of creation of human, has to do with the corn. Yeah, there's so much to that though. If you go, you can relate to even in the north, in the Nahuatl or the Olmecas have other stories relating to the spider woman and the story of creation and how she would sing and how she had her daughter was Ish. And there, I'm reading a really interesting book by the Hopis that connects these stories together. And so it's wild when you get into that, the Mayan cosmovision and the energies, and start working with them, and it's a different story, and it's really beautiful to have Cacao be a door to people to connect with that Mayan cosmology, and I'm kind of a believer that the ancient Mayans came from Atlantis, and Atlantis has a connection to, they say, the Basque people or the Celtics, actually the Vikings, the Celtics, the people of Morocco that were the Saimari, I don't know how to say it, because there's stories in the Hopi that say that they went from there to all places. So I believe that the Mayan cosmology, as many elders believe that I've got to translate for, that this knowledge and wisdom is for everyone. Yeah. But we have to learn it if we really want to learn it authentically and truly from the elders who still hold that wisdom. And there's still some elders who are 100 years old, alive, because they drink cacao. And they are happy to share those stories when you come in with respect and humbleness, and they open their hearts to you, their doors, and share in this way. And because some of them are so humble and open and willing, some of them are also not good with business, not good with contracts, not good with that modern stuff, and therefore they need people in service like us who could protect them and defend them and be this bridge of transmitting these things to people that don't understand the world of the Indigenous people. So I appreciate all those in service everywhere to being in service to the plants, to humanity, really, to earth, to the plant, by listening to the plants, but also being culturally sensitive. And at the same time, I believe that if you are connecting with cacao, it's going to connect you to your own ancestors and the wisdom they carry.
I love that. And as you were speaking, the imagery too of I did hypnobirthing with my daughter when I gave birth to her. But then I also became a hypnobirthing teacher and instructor as well as doula. And one of the things that we learn in hypnobirthing, when you're giving birth, you're in labor. This is a very sensitive time for the woman. She's doing her thing. She's giving birth to life, and in this portal, in whatever is moving connected to her body, and that the role of the father or the partner is, especially in a hospital environment, is you establish what you need before, and then he is or she is the guardian, because like if the doctor needs you, talk to me first and then we can go to the mother, but do not disturb her because she is in the process of giving birth and life. And those gatekeepers are so important, I think, for protecting what is sacred, because we can get so distracted and pulled out. And then it's like, wait, where am I? And now we're in this kind of chaos. And it's like coming back into self. And for me, it was like a parallel to what you were speaking of, there really need to be strong gatekeepers that are of true heart, of pure heart, that understand that and can be like, no, we respect what is happening here, and allowing only that in what actually needs to be in, so that they can do what they need and want and be supported, and that there's this beautiful structure. And like, of course, now it's a fine line because so many people could take advantage or manipulate, but really the strong guardian, the that true. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, I we're always like growing and learning, and I feel it's so good to have these conversations because, for instance, I don't resonate with the word gatekeeper anymore because I don't think that, unfortunately, you you can't pay to get all that wisdom, you know but that is happening. um the wisdom is for everyone, and it's so complicated because it's like I feel like I was really sick and lost and humble when I came in to learn, when I was invited to my elders' home, and then they saw, can you support us? And then I was so honored. And then there grew a trust because I just wanted to go there. I never felt so inspired to sing like in a ceremony, in a Mayan ceremony, where I felt these are my ancestors, this is what my ancestors practice. So I felt very honored and just just so privileged to experience that, or that it's grateful that it still exists, right? But eventually people want to also experience that and receive the healing. So then there's like, there has to be this cultural exchange. And then I was asked to create those, and it was difficult for me to know, well, what is fair exchange? Okay, well, we're gonna have to charge you for all of the offerings. How much do the offerings cost? Well, the more that you give, the more powerful the prayer is, right? That's what the Mayan people believe, that the more offerings that you give, the more sacrifice the offering is, the more powerful the prayer is going to be, the more, the spirits are going to listen. That's what it has to do with. Every tradition, every ancient tradition from all over the world has a certain type of sacrifice that happens in order to make something truly sacred. And to experience that, it is a privilege. And there you see all kinds of things. It could just get so messy because in one sense, the one who's going to pay the most is going to control it all. Or in another sense, the one who doesn't pay anything doesn't value it, you know? Or the one who I'm also a moon dancer. I'm going to do my 4th year, and that's a Mexica tradition, North American. And my group, I helped to create with my grandmothers because I'm a peace pipe holder. Also another long story. And because we were new, we were creating a new group. We allowed, there's a process, an initiation of a vision quest, of supporting the vision quest, and then maybe supporting the dance. Some dances, some circles are a little bit more strict. You have to do 4 years of supporting before you're allowed to dance. But when you finally get to dance, it's such an honor, and you really value it, and you really take seriously that commitment. But we allowed people to just join the dance the 1st year without serving. And guess what? They didn't value it, and they didn't come back, and they didn't think it was an honor, and keep their word, because it's supposed to be a 4-year commitment. And there's people who are 7-year, 10-year. And that's the way that it is with like becoming an akik or holding Mayan ceremonies. You can't just come in and pay and become one. And there's Mayan elders children from this Kaslimal project that I work with, when she was born, they said, the grandma believed she's meant to be a spiritual elder, and they trained her that way. And so she has, yes, only 30 years alive, but she's been trained all her life to walk that path. And so she has this wisdom, even though she's so young, and although everyone is welcome to take that path, but like I said, there's a way to do it, and you go there and you dedicate yourself truly. And you may dedicate yourself for years before the elders say, all right, you showed us you really want this, and the spirits told us you are meant to do this. Not like just a fad or just something that's calling you because it's popular or anything like that, because you really take it seriously. So that's a whole nother story. I want to be really clear after all of my work. We do not have to imitate a Mayan ceremony to serve cacao. That's not what cacao wants, and that's not what the Mayan elders want. The Mayan elders do want to heal us, and they want us to work and integrate those energies and be synchronistic with the calendar, of course. That's why they're teaching it. With that, like today, me and you just integrated it. Oh, we happen to have a ceremony on bots. How beautiful. It's a weaver. We're weaving together wisdom, and we get to integrate that energy, and maybe it's guiding both of us to have this talk today. But we don't need to have a Mayan bots cacao ceremony, a Mayan way, in order to serve cacao. We can have our elements. Also I'm interested in the paganism, or reclaiming tradition, I like to call, from the people of the north. And I believe that the Basque people have their own, which I'm going to learn now a little bit about. I'm here to to experience what that's about herbs, about all of this. One tradition, the Mexica, doesn't do the call of the directions in the same way that the Mayans do, and same as, but the the Buddhists have it their way, and the Egyptians did it another way. And in the end, maybe all the wisdom came from Lemuria, who knows? And we can tap into that when we get healed and when we clean our channel and go deeper. And in the end, all of the elements and nature and all of the plants, they really are for everyone. It's our birthright to enjoy and experience everything this life has to offer, this earth has to offer. And that's in the end what I believe. And so if you do come to learn about the Mayan traditions, it's more to pay respect. And then once you learn, the authenticity of it and what's real, then you can have that in your heart and let that memory guide you and cherish it. And you can make your own with who you are. And like I said, an abundance of possibilities of how we can use this tool to weave, to connect our brothers and sisters, to help heal our brothers and sisters with our other skills and with our own ancestral wisdom.
Another mic drop.
Yeah, cacao. That's cacao medicine coming through.
What I can feel in you is the experience and the depth and the life that you lived, and the integration and the embodiment. And I think when you speak, there's this really powerful connection to your understanding. And that is the most powerful thing that we have, is the embodiment and the integration of that knowledge. We've digested it. We've moved through it. It's become a part of us. And now we can just allow that activation to flow through us. And when we speak our words, we wield it with such clarity and focus and intention, because it is us, because we just have that wisdom. So as you speak, it's like, I feel like you're the clarifying energy like all around. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so much to learn. So much I want to learn and do and understand. And one thing I am really curious about for you personally, because you mentioned briefly that your parents were, okay, first of all, the juxtaposition of LA to Las Vegas to your world travels, and having the upbringing in these places that feel very conflicted energetically, of what is actually being produced there and how people live their lives with this really deep and sacred medicine. You said that your family was kind of strict in their upbringing, or in their convictions and what that is. And we're talking about a very different path of conviction and dedication. And where do you find within your upbringing maybe that seeded or planted some sort of discipline that enables you to respect that?
Yeah, well, definitely Latino people have an embedded respect of how to respect. I was raised very young, my first years, by my grandmother from Mexico, who was very religious Catholic. And it's really funny because she talked to me about the apocalypse when I was like 5 years old, kind of like traumatized me, and talked about, in the future, yeah, the mark of the beast and the credit cards and everything. And somehow grandma doesn't know that she kind of led me on to a search for anarchism, because I rejected it's all a result of. But definitely my parents didn't understand the American lifestyle and the American, even though they wanted the American dream, they were still old school. I mean, they were raised all the way until their 20s before they came to America. They didn't know what it was. And we were I'm in a Hispanic barrio in LA with gangs and race wars, and it was scary, and all these different cultures coming together, all these children of immigrants coming together from different parts of the world. And definitely Las Vegas, I have to say, I'll say like Chicano roots, right? Because Chicanos are people who were in the middle. We weren't really accepted by Mexican people in Mexico because we were raised in the States and not really feeling like we belong there. So we were somewhere in the middle. I think now there's a lot of voices for people like me, Santana, Selena, like all these representations of people that grew up in that. And I found punk rock, and punk rock felt like a subculture of a family of people who were lost, and through that, who questioned society and took me into Actually, through them, I met the native Apache family. That again took me back to wanting to know the traditions and the earth. And probably without them, I would have got lost in Las Vegas. It got very confusing, right? But I remember driving out of the city. My first job was in Egypt, in the Egyptian casino, which is funny, in the Museum of the Luxor. And I would drive 40 minutes to go to the desert to be with this Apache Papa who they lived a traditional life. They still had a teepee. They were from New Mexico, lived in the mountains, and he hunted buffalo. And they invited me to sing to my first ceremony ever experienced with the peace pipe. They invited me. They showed me keys to my path, right? And you could say there's beautiful elders, wisdom keepers that you'll meet in your life once you connect with the magic of the world, or connect with your true path. You want to connect with your purpose. You meet the teachers. They come into your life and they guide you, or they help you, or they show you keys to where your path is. I finally got to Guatemala and saw my first ceremony and met the late elder Tata Pedro, actually, and the elders of Chichi that I still work with. I just had never seen that in that style. So I just fell to my knees and was just so grateful that it's still alive, that it wasn't wiped out by the war. And that's the biggest reason why we need to appreciate and respect and honor what is still here, what hasn't been lost. The most important reason, yeah.
The human experience is so diverse and multifaceted, and we look at each fractal of consciousness having such a detailed and rich life and how it all leads, and we weave together. It's so beautiful that this journey of whatever it was that stimulated inside of you, that deep search for roots, for connection, for the earth, and what came through that, and then also the rebellion of like, no, I won't accept this. I becoming a seeker and finding. And what I can relate to in my life and what I see in a lot of people is like, our roots are connected to some ancestry, but the relationship to tradition is either very superficial in some ways, what it remains, and then there's like the search for like, well, what is still here, what is still alive. And I feel a lot of people, yeah, are gravitating towards those traditions that have substance, that have a really wealth of deep knowledge and the connection to spirit, because that's what we're really just trying to find, right? Or trying to find that connection, how to know ourselves, how to navigate this earth and life. And for me in my journey, I've connected a good amount with my aspects. I have Portuguese family, and then I also have German, but the German went back. They're actually from Romania, Moldavia, because they got pushed out of Romania to Moldavia to Poland to Germany, and then they came to the U.S. And just finding the traditions is sometimes really hard. Getting back to like the root of something, that's because it's been either wiped out, like in Germany, there are parts that still have the connection to like the Black Forest and the witches that are there and those traditions that live within there. But I feel like the fires that are still burning are like these beacons, and it's beacons for the spirit. And they're speaking very clearly. The souls that are listening of there's remembrance. You can find it here. And I think it's really beautiful to then, as we go to those places, we light our torches with their fire, and then we can return home and begin to illuminate the spaces of our community, the spaces of our past, the spaces of our roots. And I thank you for undertaking that journey too, because it's not easy. It's like there's so much pain we have to face, and all of these parts of the journey that are just like not for the faint of heart. And I would love to know, what is your message for people going through that right now, of maybe they're having difficulty finding their connection to their roots, to themselves, and how Cacao might be able to help them in that.
Yeah, I think investigating is really important, even if there's a slight idea. But for instance, I told you I have some Hungarian blood. I was just in Hungary. Every year I go back, it's taking me deeper. I went to a museum this time. I was with friends last time in a little town and just like observed their culture. Even their palinka alcohol, their words. I got to share my peace pipe with a Hungarian friend who studied with Shipibo people, but is serving now cacao in Hungary. And that was so beautiful. I felt like that was such a weaving of my ancestors. Like, how am I here? And I was singing at this cacao ceremony in Hungary. It was just like, and they were translating in Hungarian, and it was so shamanic. And it was so, they still have a lot. It's not lost. We just have to go and research and find it. And there's so many books as well with full of knowledge, full of history, and we do have access to that. But then, of course, if you have an idea, if you have some kind of culture that's calling you, maybe you do have a connection to it. And cacao, with the kind of meditations you can take on, listening to especially ancient tongues of the ones that are still alive. Like, I think Hungarian is a really ancient tongue, but there's Romanian ancient tongue, there's Native American, there's Hopi, which I think there's some keys to. They talk about 5 nations that are the guardians of the world. You can find these meditations, these songs on the internet, and allow them to not appropriate them, but maybe they have keys to you, to accessing and opening up deeper to who am I, where I come from. Because just like we get, chronic illnesses passed down, we also get all of the skills, all of what our ancestors did through their lives and learned, whether it was piano or crocheting or sculpture. I believe that all of that are codes inside of our DNA that are keys to where our ancestors walk. And you can also turn on a candle and learn a little bit from the tools that the Mayan people gave us, is make a little offering and use all of the elements and turn on a candle and drink cacao and have a meditation and ask, I want to know more. I want to go deeper. I want my ancestors to connect with me, to give me answers or show me signs in my dreams or in life. And you will see the magic, especially if it's on your Nawal day and you ask also the help of that Nawal energy. Oh my God. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast. I can tell you about the magic I have seen, the gifts, because our ancestors know who we are and they love us. And even when we're lost and we don't know who we are or we don't know what we need, all of a sudden, if you're present enough, you see the gift right in front of you, whether that's a person or a word or a feather or a crystal or a book that you needed on that day. You have no idea, and you're like, wow, yeah, that's who I am. I love that. Or even just the song that you just hear is playing on the radio, and you're like, wait a minute, that really is a message. Like, I asked for this. But of course we have to believe, and we have to remember, and we have to be present to receive it.
Yes, being present and open to receive it. The receiving part, we can ask, but we have to let it in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What is your nawal?
Akawal.
No
Yeah,
way.
because it's the same
I'm
as you.
Akabal. I'm
Yeah, you said your
Akabal.
destiny was bots, and I was like, oh, yeah.
No way. Bots brought us together.
Yeah.
That's magic right there in your face. You're Akabal. But
Yeah.
we're dreamers, and we have to remember and tap into our dreams. And it's really important, the Akabal and the dreams and writing and singing and conversations and all of that. And there's a lot about Akabal that I've learned over so long. But yeah, that wisdom is another wisdom that's really deep. It's beautiful, and I really recommend everyone who wants to learn about the Mayan cosmology, welcome. And you can find books, you can find information like on oxomedia.net.
That's my favorite place.
Yeah, that one's a great one. It's a quantum physicist, archaeologist that worked with Mayan elders over a long period of time and translated that. I like Jaguar Spirit, the Timekeeper's Journal. If you want to just keep in track, and you can kind of just live in synchronicity, because it is a real calendar that blew away archaeologists and scientists. And so it connects to the astronomical events in the world, the eclipse, the everything. So the Gregorian is still connected because Julius Caesar fell in love with the Egyptian goddess Cleopatra, who made him change the calendar to fit. And I think Egypt obviously came from Lemuria, where the Mayans came too. So for me, that makes sense why the Egyptian calendar would be similar to the Mayan calendar and therefore Gregorian. The only thing about the Gregorian is like there's magic in the ancient words. Invocation is with the ancient tongues. So akabal, that's the spell. And for instance, Julius Caesar Augustus, he added August. But September actually means septimo siete, it means 7. October is actually ocho, it's 8. Niebrem is 9. And December is 10. The language is disconnecting us from the numbers, and the numbers are all they're teachers as well. So that their vibration, right? So that's why that calendar kind of is off. It's disconnect, and like language, sound, everything. It's so those are the codes of that's through the sound and through the ancient languages. Hopefully we can preserve them and rescue them and learn them. And even in Guatemala, know that that's either Sutuhil or Kachikil or Quiche, or there's 21 languages that still exist, dialects. And that's why so much knowledge was preserved and hidden in the weavings and hidden in the rocks and in the dirt. That's why this hasn't been it hasn't been wiped out, because they had so much dialects that they couldn't conquer with the language.
Yeah. That's I didn't know that, but it makes so much sense of because I know from what I am aware of the dialects too, and a lot of regions too, that the dialects are so strong and different that you can't even communicate between certain dialects sometimes.
Yeah, it's true. Some are very different. Some in the way the same, but different. Yeah, just like the Slavic languages, I think they're ancient too, but they're similar but different. I would say Nahuatl from North Mexico and Mayan is totally different, absolutely. But a lot of the Mayan languages have similarities. Yeah, yes. And then similarities even North America, because maybe, before that we believed the Olmecas were there, and maybe the Olmecas came from the north. And yeah, it's a weaving of a lot of topics that we could go down a hole about.
Yeah.
Very interesting, but yeah.
Yeah, really fascinating. There's so much to learn, know, and consume. I'm curious for you, what at this time are you working on? What are you doing? What are you like most passionate about in your life?
Oh my God. Actually, right now I'm on a journey of music and dance. I know this is my medicine. I need it as my own medicine. So I'm back with my teacher of over 10 years, who's a master pianist, cello player here in this little witch town, to have her transmit again. I've practiced guitar for a long time, but I want to I'm gonna I'm gonna make my own music. I'm gonna produce an album slowly, slowly. The other thing is, and then I go to dance, flamenco and Arabic dance in Granada, which is something else that I've been doing for the last 12 years. But I am writing a book, and I'm almost finished. And it is about my grandfather's story to my story. It ends when I arrive to Guatemala and meet the elders. That's where it ends. It's a story about getting out of how I got out of society, how I transform consciousness transforming, but at the same time about my music journey through that, how music guided me into that journey. I talk a lot about my dreams, and it's going to be very, very interesting. It's also about getting out of an abusive relationship with a traumatized, psychologically ill person, which to me is metaphorical for getting out of the system as well, or the mundane. Same. I hope that it's going to help a lot of people, because it's very real. It's been really important for me to write it the last 2 years. It took me into dark places. I guess that's the akabal in us. I didn't know I needed, elders to guide me through to support me through writing this book. But I'm almost finished. I have 2 chapters left, so I'm going to Granada, a place that inspires me to finish it and dance and sing. And then we are actually organizing the first YEB with the Cosmology project, my own organization. I've been part of YEB for the last 10 years with different families. This is going to be the first one where we open it up to experience with the organization with the Tatas of Chichi and the Kaslimal family with cacao and cacao farm involved. And it's going to be super beautiful for the YEB February time of the end of the last year and the time where it's 5 days of prayer, very important holiday, or not holiday, but celebration, concentration of the 5 days out of time for the Mayan people in Guatemala. And so that's actually what I'm really working on right now, helping to organize a really beautiful experience. That is it for now.
Yeah.
Other
That
than,
sounds like a lot. That's plenty.
yeah.
Really amazing. And I can't wait to read your book. I'm sure a
Yeah.
lot of our listeners are like, yes, I want to read that.
Yeah.
You mentioned it a little bit before, and this is one question that I actually really like to ask a lot of my guests is, what do you feel is Cacao's mission at this time?
Yeah, I think Cacao's mission is helping humanity. I think the most important thing about cacao is that the Western society's world and the modern world is really taking us into our mind, and we're sick because we just are overthinking and we can't listen to our intuition. We can't listen to what is our own mission and the connection to earth. And this master plan is really wise and really ancient, and it can guide us to how to walk in service. I believe that if you're in service, you will heal. If you're in service with the skills or the passion, your what you came here to do is to follow your passions, which is, you know, your your um your dones, your gifts that were given to us. And when we're not using them because we're in our head, or because we need to heal, or because of trauma, or because we're not walking our path and doing what we're supposed to be doing, which is in the end sharing our light and sharing our gifts. And I believe that's the mission of Cacao. It's for everyone. It's, people are addicted or avoidant or blocked because they are not feeling their emotions. And Cacao helps us to move through our emotions, to observe them, to feel them, and to move through them so that we can get back on track. And I believe the world is crazy right now. It's really dense. There's a lot going on, and there's no time to waste. There's no time, like my friend said yesterday, to be asleep anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it helps us to gather together and be in family and weave and unite people from, create circles and all of this. And we need that. We need support. We can't do it alone. So
Very
that's it.
powerful. Yeah. Yeah. Just letting that sink in. I enjoy taking space, and I enjoy recording these conversations with more space. And I know sometimes for me, I get caught in my mind because I'm like, gotta ask questions, gotta do this. Actually, I just want to take it in and give space and really help myself and help people like sit with the echoes of the energy that was just moved and feel that.
Mm.
I would love to try your cacao. And you mentioned too the families that you work with. If you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit more about the farms that your cacao comes
Yeah.
from, and giving a little bit more illustration for our listeners here.
Yeah. Kaslimal family is a family that I met through ceremonies a long time ago. They're midwives, and then one of the daughters, Ishkik, who's the leader, who was raised to be a spiritual elder. Her partner is really into ancient Mayan traditions like the Mayan football, and makes marimbas, the traditional Mayan instrument. And like I said, he almost left to the United States, but I stopped him because I said, "Wait, you have a farm that's generational, that's organic." And all they've been doing is selling the seeds to whatever buyers. So they didn't have a direction. And so with the help of actually my friend Solif, I asked them to help us. We needed support, and we helped product manage, and they, both of us learning together, because they have a lot of the traditional agricultural knowledge, and they work with the Mayan calendar. Like for instance, they cultivate the seeds, or if they're going to heal with plants, they do it on Akmak days, or that's when they cut the plant, and then if they want to help someone heal, they'll do it on Tihash days, and they just have this knowledge, and it's just they're a dictionary of ancient wisdom, and so for me, I really respect this family, and I'm so happy we could cultivate this cacao. And it took them to trust us, because they cultivate other things like cardamomo, and they did have problems with buyers not paying and stuff like that. So it took time for them to trust, and now they're just completely in trust, and they completely want to support the cacao movement, and they work with cacao, and they serve it, and they have their own way, and they also have other knowledge about weavings, and they're also midwives involved with the midwife projects. So by supporting their cacao, we get to support those projects, which are again helping other people, and mamas, and the grandma has delivered over, I don't know, like 800 babies, and she's never lost one, and she's just this magic woman. Yeah, so I really believe in supporting a family that's doing so much good and empowering them. And the way it goes is anybody who wants to be a distributor, be a steward, I get to support them with documents, more education, more information, however, so they could be supported in walking as a steward confidently and sharing with their communities in the best way possible, and knowing what they support, which is an organic farm that's honoring the farmers as well. It's an anti-exploitive project in the jungles of Alta Verapaz, and it's a few different families that come together as a community, and they have trusted Ish to be the leader and to find the buyers for their cacao, rather than selling to these other, even Guatemalan people or industries that were really taking advantage of them, taking advantage of the seeds. So that's the project mainly. There's another family I work with from the coast, which is similar as well. They're more about reforesting and educating about the importance of not using pesticide and all of that, which is also a beautiful project. They're just not it's more like families, and then a man that I been working with for a long time is in charge of that project. But my baby is the Kaslimal projects. And so if, for instance, you wanted to share it under your own brand, or sometimes I have two art created by a Mayan artist that I support. One is the jaguar, and one is Ish, the goddess Ish, and I allow people to have permission to use those as their label if they don't have their own label, or we can create one, or you can create your own. It doesn't matter. You can even have your own brand supporting the Kaslimal project. So that's how it works.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I love your artistry connected to that as well, and amplifying that. I'm curious about your perspective on, as cacao is now growing and it's impacting more people, like ceremonial cacao. How do you find that that will actually affect the demand of the farmers? And where do you see that going, and how do you see that playing out?
Yeah, there's definitely a demand. If my farm could only cultivate so much depending on the harvest seasons. So and I tell them, oh, these are the more slow season. So if you want it for March, maybe you need to order in November, because the rain season just finished, so it'll be the biggest harvest now, right? But because of the demand, there is some projects that are working with farms who they like the brand name and they want to support that family. However, the family doesn't cultivate that much cacao. So what they do to not lose the client is they go to other farms who are not organic. For our family, it's so important to be organic, because the pesticides are killing the soil and changing the environment, and therefore they won't be able to grow cacao there anymore. And so that's the other project's job and responsibility, is educating the farmers why they can't use pesticides. If they only knew what's your pesticide, well, the mosquitoes, but the mosquitoes, come with the water from that is left in the pods, and that's only cultivating. They're just going to cultivate more plants, actually, they're going to harvest more seeds. The mosquitoes are good. They're not bad. They're good, And so the people who are using parasites all over Guatemala are actually affecting the soil, killing deer, killing butterflies, killing the mosquitoes. What do the mosquitoes do then? They go and they start feeding off of us. And so it's just this whole imbalance. It's really important, I think, for everyone that wants to use medicines like this or use cacao, that they know the source and how it's being harvested and how it's being grown. That's really that they trust their source, right? But I personally know from being so deep into the farming that, yeah, some families, they are doing good, and I cannot name any names, but they just have to investigate, have a demand, and they go and get cacao from these other farms. And so you don't know that you're not getting organic cacao. So that's the only thing, because the family maybe is like getting a little bit greedy, or they want to fulfill the demands. So they do those kind of things, which are dishonest. And, I believe that the ceremonial cacao movement is definitely organic cacao. So also, yeah, I mean, if we just have to be patient for everyone who, like, if you can only get 50 pounds of cacao now, that's okay. If another time you ask for 100 and you want to be the distributor, I kind of like it better that way, to have like one distributor in a certain country or certain region, and then we just help them out. And if there isn't any cacao, because there's just last year actually they had a really bad water shortage, so there is definitely less than can be produced. But I think all of us, hopefully, in this movement are conscious about, well, we just have to do what is available, use what is available, and, not force or demand. Yeah. And the only other thing and how it will be affected is if the family only could cultivate 200 pounds of cacao and they have a bunch of buyers, then what's going to happen is they're just going to sell it to the buyer that pays the most, because that's what they can do. They don't, or maybe to the person who's the most loyal customer, perhaps, so.
I would love to seed and hear your vision of the future, the earth, and what you feel is living in your heart that you wish you could see playing out in our world and our society, and just like paint as a picture that we can begin to play with that in our hearts and our imaginations.
Oh my God, what a question. I mean, I've seen it. I've had the vision of a world of peace and harmony and beautiful art, and like everyone dressed in beautiful fashionista garments of bright, shiny pink and gold and dragons. That I think this dimension exists, and everything for everyone, and nobody's poor, and there's no crime, and there's no money. Everything's resource based, and there's no war. There's no weapons of war. Although, I don't know, I personally like, the warrior with the bow and arrow fighting for what he believes in. Like, maybe that's my Apache blood. But I still love watching movies like that. I don't, the human is so complex, but I do want to say that I think that the Mayan calendar has taught us that every 20 days we go through a death cycle, and we don't have to be afraid of death. And although there's always death happening and suffering and people suffering, they transform and they just return to the light. They return to the fountain. They live their experience, and we're going to keep reincarnating to different experiences of consciousness, I believe. And if we are finished with this realm, and this realm that we cannot avoid suffering, I mean, I think a lot of us are here to pave the way for consciousness to raise its vibration. But those who are ready to raise its vibration will go to those realms that exist with peace and everything, and we'll end up there, and there's other consciousness that isn't ready, and everything is really okay. And I guess through medicines like cacao and through people like you making these kind of conversations and doing this kind of work. And the work that all of us are walking is to relieve the suffering and remind people about the light and love and raise the vibration always with what we can do, whether that's making a nice meal for someone or smiling or giving $1 to the homeless person. I don't know, whatever we can do, but we have to concentrate on the light. Yes. Thank you so much for that question.
Yeah.
This conversation.
I feel that in the inner kingdom, just that the kingdom is within, and it's the state of consciousness, the state of being. That's why I love having these conversations too in my life and my surroundings of like, all right, become that pillar, and yeah, just it's all okay. We have access to these realms here and now. Find that frequency and just beam it into our plane, and that enables so much more magic and joy to open up for us and for us to play with and to begin to weave and dream and create that art and magic. So thank you for bringing that back into my awareness, into my system again, bringing space.
Yeah. Thank you, Mama Cacao and Bots Energy and Akabal for bringing us together.
I have one question I've really been loving to ask people. What is your favorite thing about being human right now?
Oh my God. um, I think it's the ability to see our resilience, the ability to transform pain into art. I think that's especially for me as an artist, bots. It's our medicine, but when you can be stronger than your pain and transform and make something beautiful, that's so amazing, so amazing.
I love that.
The ability to feel, just to feel it all. We're not robots, not yet.
We are all thinking it, not yet. Thank you for your sharing of what is moving through you. So on our podcast, I started a tradition of the previous guest leaving a blessing for the future guest that's here. So right now, I have this blessing lined up for you from our past guest, and I will allow you to just receive here. And to our future guest, to you, Enjoly.
To our future guest, may you speak your truth, share your wisdom, inspire others that are going to hear your words, and may you speak from your embodied self and connected to the divine also. And I pray that you appreciate yourself, your wisdom, and know that you matter and everything that you say matters, and that the universe is smiling at you for sharing yourself. So thank you.
So beautiful. Thank you. That one made me cry.
I'll send it to you so that you can really deepen with that too.
That's such a beautiful blessing that we all need to hear and believe in, I think.
And I love how these blessings, they're always like a little different and they always seem to hit the guest like just perfectly. We're weaving an intuitive web here.
Yeah. Thank you. Love
Thank you for receiving. And I would love if you feel comfortable tuning in here and now and just sharing a blessing for our future guests that I will pass along.
May you trust in your heart and your word, and may you be guided by your ancestors and the strength of your experience. May you be blessed and be supported by all those energies and angels and ancestors and everyone that loves you to support you in walking the path to be a pillar that makes a beautiful impact on the world by being yourself and sharing yourself. May we, or you, reach the highest potential that you know that you can. All the best.
What a powerful blessing, and I so look forward to sharing that with our next guest. I know they will receive it with so much love and openness. I want to thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom, for everything that you shared and your openness. And if there's anything you'd like to share or just closing words for our listeners.
Just thank you so much for listening. I hope it wasn't too much bombarding of information. Thank you for receiving everything I had to say, and thank you for making this conversations. I think it's something so beautiful. I honor you for doing this, and I hope that you receive all so much blessings for this. It could really, you have no idea the impact and weaving that you could be doing, and yes, believe it's important. And thank you to everyone who listens to us, who will listen to us, so much. If you feel called to connect, I welcome you, and I welcome you to walk deeper with Cacao confidently, and know that your curiosity or your connection that you have already is important and significant. And I hope that if anything impacted you, that this will just be a blessing conversation, and bring blessings for you. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Maltiosh, Nimaha, Chawe, Matiosh, Maltiosh. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Matios. So much to integrate. And I would love to take this moment as we close our space. I feel supported in bringing one hand to my heart and one hand to my belly, but whatever feels good for you at this time, as we integrate this conversation, allowing whatever was stirred to seed itself and take root, allowing our soils to be fertile and flexible, and our roots to be strong. And as we begin to breathe into our bodies again with consciousness, with awareness, tuning into that place inside of us where we remember everything is okay, that we are connected, we are good, we are safe in this moment. And again, beaming our love to all of our listeners, everybody listening, past, present, and future, and feeling our connection. And from this space of connection, of collaboration, of interconnection, interdependence, we root down to the heart of the earth, and we give thanks to the heart of the earth. Rooting up towards the heart of the sky, giving thanks towards the heart of the sky, the sun, the moon, the stars, the cosmic wisdom. Giving thanks to the heart of the waters, we bless the waters around us and within us. And giving thanks to the fire, we bless the fires and the fire within us. We give thanks to the heart of ether, and we give thanks to the heart of the void. We give thanks to the four directions that hold us in every single moment, that guide us along our path to the north, to the south, and to the east, and to the west. And we give deep, deep thanks and reverence to the guardians and protectors of Cacao, those who have held this medicine sacred for generations and generations, enabling us to have this conversation here today, having these deep, complex, interdimensional and emotional conversations that guide us and help us to know ourselves along our path. We give deep, deep thanks to these people who have come before us and those who will come after us, giving thanks and gratitude to our own lineages, our ancestral lineages, our star lineages, our physical lineages and non-physical lineages. We give thanks to the guardians and protectors of our lands. We give thanks to the energy of the Mayan calendar, the Mayan wisdom keepers, and of course we give thanks to the heart of Mama Cacao. Thank you so much. It is done, it is done, it is done, and it is fun, it is fun, it is fun.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We went deep. We talked about a lot of different things. And I hope that these conversations are really nourishing you, providing you with the mana, the inspiration to be a part, an active participant in this life that we're in this world, realizing that we can make an impact. We can allow things to flow into us and receive, and allowing the magic that lives within us to be embodied and create real beauty here on earth. So thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. If you haven't already subscribed yet, please take the time to subscribe so you don't miss any more conversations, and we can keep giving you these beautiful conversations as well. And as always, nourish your roots, awaken your heart, and embody your magic, because you are pure magic.